Hi there, scientists. We're going to be talking today about the Micro 2 notes, which are on page 5. This is Miss Kerr, and I'm going to be talking to you about viruses. So today you're going to be able to describe some characteristics of viruses. So some characteristics are that viruses are non-living, so they are not alive. They do not use their own energy to grow. They cannot make food because they are non-living. And they only multiply inside of a living cell, which is called the host cell. So they have to have a host cell in order to multiply. A virus is named for the disease they cause or what they infect. All right, so these are some common viruses you may have heard of here on the right-hand side here. You may have heard of the Ebola virus. Smallpox is a very common one. Hepatitis has 3 different strains, A, B, and C. HIV, you've probably talked about a little bit about in health class. HIV can also strengthen into AIDS, although not as common these days with as much antiviral medicine that we have to treat HIV. And then tobacco mosaic virus attacks the tobacco plant. So a lot of people don't know that plants can also have viruses. They can also get sick, and they do. And that can really hurt a farmer's crop. All viruses have 2 basic parts, and I'm going to point out on the picture down below what those parts are. But the first part is a protein coating that's going to protect the virus, and it enables the virus to attack specific cells. The proteins attach to the host cell using a lock and key method. So on the picture, let me explain that a little bit. So this red, orangish, coating here, this is the membrane envelope, and then you've got the protein coating in there. And in the very inside, you've got the genetic material, which is called the inner core. And the virus is going to use that outer membrane, the protein coating of their, the outside there, to attach to a host cell. So in this picture, they have, like these little nodules on there, and those are going to fit right into the host cell or not, right? So sometimes a virus is going to become active and going to be able to attach to the cell, and then sometimes not. For instance, if you've had the vaccine for this particular virus, which we'll talk about in a minute, if you've had a vaccine, then the lock and key isn't going to work for this virus, right? It's not going to attach to your cells because you are immune to this virus. In Micro 1 notes, you talked about parasites. So the next part is, how are parasites and viruses similar? A virus kind of acts like a parasite because it's an organism that exists on or in a host. So a parasite needs a host, and a virus needs a host, and they both cause harm. The main difference is that parasites are living organisms, whereas we already said viruses are non-living. They need a host cell to reproduce. So again, some examples of parasites that you learned in the previous notes that Miss Owens gave you. You've got the tick, the leech, the hookworm, the botfly. There's 2 pictures of that there. and then the tapeworm as well. And if you did not listen to those notes, please go back and listen to Micro 1 because Ms. Owens goes into great detail about some of these parasites here. All right, active viruses versus latent viruses. So up here in this animation here, we've got how an active virus is going to enter the cell here. So the virus is attaching to the outside using that protein coating, right? It's going to insert the DNA, and then it's going to multiply. And so if we watch this again really quickly, right, inserting the genetic DNA of the virus, that's going to multiply. And then it's going to spread out to other cells. And then these viruses, which have already replicated, are going to invade other cells, right? And that's how a virus spreads all over someone's body very quickly. Latent viruses are a little bit different. So you can think of them hiding or being dormant for a while inside the host cells before becoming active. So down there at the bottom of your paper, you have two diagrams that are comparing the active virus versus the latent virus. And there's a little box under each to kind of summarize what's happening. So I'm going to talk about that, and you can sort of write the summary of what's going on. So in an active virus, you see the virus attaching to the cell, living cell. And then the virus is inserting the genetic information of the virus. That virus is replicating, so copying over and over and over again, right, inside the cell. And then those virus cells break out, sorry, not virus cells, the viruses. They're going to copy the DNA, right? And they're going to spread to other cells in the body. So you see them coming out just like over here. All right, a latent virus, again, lays dormant for a little while. So same few steps at the beginning, the virus attaches to the cell. The virus inserts the genetic information. At this point, the genetic material just merges with the genetic material within the cell. And so you have that genetic material just sitting there for a little while until something happens to allow for that virus to replicate and go ahead and spread to other cells. Cold sores are a common latent virus. I get cold sores, and the virus is always in my body. When I get stressed or I travel, the virus becomes active, and I end up having a cold sore. And so, you know, normal times that virus sits latent in my cells. And then when I get a little bit stressed or I'm traveling, that virus becomes active again. And, you know, different viruses do this, and people have different triggers. My triggers are stress and traveling. So that just gives you an example of a latent virus. All right, we are finished with those notes. We're going to talk more about viruses and how to treat them in the upcoming notes. So tune in for more about viruses in the next couple note pages. Thank you.